Hi there, David Drews here with the University of Nebraska at Omaha's Center for Public Affairs Research, and I'm going to walk you through an exercise today on how you can download data for U.S. metro areas and make a ranking of, say, the top 100 metro areas for a particular characteristic. So I'm going to show you as I share my screen here on what we're trying to do to give you an example. So here is a table where I took a look at Black poverty rates across the United States. So this is sorted going from lowest Black poverty rate on up the list for the 100 largest metros in Black population. And the reason why we do that is that we want to have the most accurate data as possible. So on this run of information, I'm not so interested in having the 100 largest metro areas overall in total population because there's a lot of US metros that are high in total population but do not have a very large Black population. So by running the numbers for the 100 largest metros in Black population, we see that the statistics are more reliable because there's more cases in the sample for this survey-based data. So as I look at this information, I'm of course interested in Omaha and area metros that I kind of highlighted here in yellow. So we can see that the Omaha Metro's Black poverty rate is 26.1%, and that ranks only 63rd highest among the top 100 metros. So we have some work to do to make some improvements. But however, when you look for the under 18 or the child poverty rates, we rank a little bit better, so about middle of the pack there. So what I want to do in this exercise is compare that to what things are like for our Hispanic or Latino community, and as well as for our white population, which I've already done here. So I'm going to adjust this column size so that it comes into the screen. And we'll see here the numbers, same numbers for the non-Hispanic white poverty rates. For that population group, we can see Omaha ranking much better among the top 100 metros for white population in about the top quarter. And what that means is when we run a ratio of the two, so comparing the Black poverty rate to the white poverty rate, Omaha's ratio is quite high. So on the exercise, I'm not going to run the ratios, but I did want to show you kind of what the thought process is for why we want to run a top 100 metro area ranking and see where Omaha comes out for Hispanic or Latino. So I'm going to go into a browser, and here is our main data portal of data.census.gov. And this screen is usable for a variety of different data runs. Okay, so on this particular example, I want to go get the poverty information for Hispanic Latino. So I'm just going to type in the keyword there of poverty for Latino and see what we kind of get for hits within the system. So the table that I want is this one here, poverty status by sex and age for the Hispanic or Latino population. We might have even a more simplified table if I click this one down here at the bottom. So let me see if the structure of this table might have a few less columns, and it does. Apparently that one's only available for a couple of years. So I'm going to go back to that original table. Just for some reason, census changed the time frame that they included on that particular table. And when we work with this data, we want to always use a 5-year time frame. Whenever we split by age group or race group or particular age 16 and older for the labor force data, generally it's best to use the 5-year time frames because it's just more accurate, more cases in sample. So I'm going to click that so we get into the right time frame. And then I'm going to go ahead and customize the table so I can get additional geographies for these various metro areas. Okay, so I'm going to click the geography menu here, and that will allow me to take a peek at this information. So I do want to grab the data for the United States overall. Moreover, since I'm going to be doing this for metros, I want to compare to all metro areas. So there's the metro portion of the United States. So this would exclude the rural areas, more remote areas, but only look at officially defined metro areas. So that's a particular geography there. Now, to get data for particular metro areas, or all of them, we could scroll through this list here, but it's a little bit hard to find. I did come up to it here. I just want to show for your reference though, once you have done this once, if you go ahead and show the summary levels, the one for metro areas that we want is number 310. So that makes it a lot easier to go through the full list of all these various geographies for zip codes or counties to find number 310. That will always stay the same for the metro and micropolitan statistical areas. So I'm going to click onto that one. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click them all, because what we're going to do is sort these so that we can find the ones that we're interested in. So I'm going to give it just a second for this to kind of pull in on the data that it's capturing. That usually tends to do better than trying to click off of the screen initially. So right now this doesn't look like it's organized in any particular manner. So what we're going to do is go ahead and download the data, and that's going to open up this screen where it gives us options to take multiple years, but I'm just going to take the most current year for 2018. That matches the time frame I have in my other Excel file. So it prepares the download, and then your computer might have a specific program to download zip files, but I just have to click it here so it opens up in my program. And the data file is this top one that says data with overlays. So I'm going to double click that, and it's going to open in my Excel file. Now initially it doesn't look very clean or good right off the bat, so we have to make a few changes. So I'm going to insert some columns here, rows first, and then one thing I always want to do is copy over this table information so we know exactly what we downloaded. So I'm going to grab those headers, take them into this file, simply paste it in, and this row is kind of not very valuable, so I delete that out. And then I go ahead and say what we downloaded the data for. So this is going to end up being downloaded for the US and all its metro areas in 2018. Metro areas do change, so that designation allows us to keep track of it. Okay. For whatever reason, when I'm gonna go ahead and eliminate the micropolitan areas first of all. So we're not interested in these. These are places that have a city of at least 10,000, but do not have a larger city of 50,000 to have metropolitan status. So we can just do a Control F to find, and I'm going to put in to match my case there. I'm just going to type in micro and then hit find all, and it's going to find all of those particular cells. There's 555 of them in total. Now this is a tip that I learned from the Census Bureau themselves. If you hit Control A, it selects all of those particular cells. Okay, and again, I'm not interested in these ones, so I just have to clear them out. From there, you can hit Control minus, okay, which pops up this menu, Control minus, and you can delete these entire rows. And I'm going to repeat this one more time because we also have Puerto Rico metros in here, which we're not interested in. So get rid of the entire row of the micros, and that significantly limits our database. Then I'm going to do the same thing, the Control F to find, and then it's just PR for Puerto Rico, micropolitan areas and metropolitan areas. Find all of those. Okay, 7. Control A again to select all. Close out this screen. Control minus to delete the entire row that relates to Puerto Rico. Most people in the continental US are not interested in Puerto Rico. You'll also notice that this is kind of sorted, but not quite right. So as it downloads it, it just puts it in particular order. So I have to sort it here by column A, which is the geographic ID, okay? And that will put them in a proper alphabetical order. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll up here, and that now we have our information. Have to do a couple of other things to clean this up. One is that Census Bureau lists the estimated data, okay? And they also list a margin of error, which is kind of a quality control measure. Most people, again, are not interested in those margins of error. So in order to kind of sort them and get rid of all that data, just type an E and an M in the columns, take this over for all of our columns, and then we can sort the file so that we get things side by side. So I'm going to highlight all of these columns here that have data. Okay. And then I'm going to sort them first of all by this category. So it's going to be row 8, so we can get rid of all those margins of error. So I'm just adding that into my sort field. I have to do it from left to right this time. And again, it's row 8. And just to make sure it's sorted in the right order sequentially, I'm going to sort by row 9 also. That way, if anything in the download was a problem, it'll be sorted correctly. So that puts all these M's, these margins of error together. And then I can simply highlight those columns and hit delete. And that really lowers down our file size and a bunch of information that we really don't need. Okay. All right. So now we're about ready to be in business here. I can get rid of these first 2 rows because they're no longer needed. Delete them out this way. And you'll notice that I kind of have all these sets of information here, but it's not readable. So 1, we have to wrap that text so we can see what we're reading. And then 2, we want to replace these exclamation points. I don't know why the format comes in with some exclamation points, but just get rid of those 2 exclamation points, replace it with a space, and it's going to look good. So we're going to replace all of those on there. And now it's going to make more sense. Okay. Just a personal preference, I also like to right align these column headers, I guess, just makes it easier for me to read. And then I also like to format all my data as numbers so that I can actually see them a little more easy with commas in there. So I'm going to format the cells as numbers with the comma. That just makes it easier for me to see. Okay. So now we've kind of prettied the file up, and going to insert a few columns here because our next step is to go ahead and, oops, hit the wrong key, insert some columns. We're going to calculate these poverty rates, and then we're going to sort the file to find the top 100 metro areas. Okay, so when we do a poverty rate, this is again for Hispanic or Latino poverty rate. Okay, that's going to be a percentage. It's very simple calculation. All we have to do, since it's the very first lines in the table, we could go back here and see them. The first row is the total population, and the next one is the number for that are below poverty level. Okay, so we're going to divide those 2 in order to have the figures of interest. Okay, so it's just taking the number below poverty divided by the total. You can multiply it by 100 or put it into percent format, whichever you prefer. But we are right at 21% of the Hispanic Latino population nationwide was in poverty in this latest 5-year time frame ending in 2018. If we double click that right corner of the cell, it's going to copy that formula down to all of the other metro areas, makes it nice and easy. Okay, so then from here, I want to take and rank the size of the metro regarding its Hispanic or Latino population. So let's enter in this text to change the column width a little bit so it's easier to read. That's not applicable here for our overall US average, or as I scroll over on the screen, that metropolitan portion of the US average. So that's not applicable. Then we enter in a ranking formula. It's one I use all the time, so it's always at the top of my particular list, but if you didn't see that, you could go into the all formulas and find this ranking formula. So what we're going to do is rank this cell. So Abilene, Texas has about 36,000 Hispanic or Latino population. We're going to rank that among all, I believe it's 383 metro areas across the US here in 2018. So there's all 383. And then another tip, a shortcut in Excel to lock in these rows that we're ranking over, you hold your FN key, so for function, and then F4. You have to hit it twice. So FN, F4, hitting it twice. Add some dollar signs as appropriate up here to keep these cells locked in. So when I copy my formula down, it keeps that same relevant range. Okay, so I'm copying this formula down, and we can see various metro areas. Okay, so again, Yuma, Arizona is one that will be in the top 100 for Hispanic or Latino population, but it's definitely not in the top 100 for total population. Okay, and that's why we're running this particular set of information this way, is that we get our more accurate data for the top metro areas in this particular characteristic. Okay, so I'm going to highlight all my cells, and then we're going to sort it based upon this estimated number of Hispanic or Latino population. So it's by column G. So you're going to have to do a sort here, and by columns. So you want column G, as I mentioned, and then from the largest to the smallest. So New York City Metro should come out as being number 1, or maybe Los Angeles, since we're dealing with Hispanic or Latino population. Okay, so there you see it, Los Angeles and New York up at the top. Okay, and then I'm interested in the top 100 metro areas. So what I usually do is, first of all, I'm going to lock my panes in here so I can see my column headers. And that is to go ahead and scroll down to where the top 100 end. I'm going to insert a few rows, and that just helps me make my formulas a little bit easier. Okay, so the other data is still there, but Memphis, Tennessee, a pretty large metro overall, did not make the top 100 for Hispanic or Latino population. So that's something we found here. And then we're just going to rank these poverty rates. Okay, so poverty rates among the top 100 metros in Latino population. So we'll be able to see how things rank out. So it's not applicable, again, for the US overall. Oops, I guess I can just copy these. And then we're going to enter in a ranking formula. Now, of course, poverty is not a good thing, so we don't want to have the highest poverty level. So we have to add in another cell in the formula. But again, we're going to rank this first cell for Los Angeles among these 100. So I'm scrolling over to those cells to capture the 100 rows. Then again, it's FN, F4 twice to put some dollar signs in there the way that we need to have the cells locked in. And then again, I do not want the highest values to be best, okay? So you can enter in any integer in this particular field here for the order, and it will make the ranking more the way that we want it, okay? So again, as we go to a higher poverty rate in New York City, we're gonna see that's ranking relatively worse. Okay, typically rankings go the other way where higher is better, but not on the poverty topic. So I'm just gonna copy those ranking formulas down. And then I need to find Omaha in the list. I could hunt and peck for them, but I'll just again do a Control F to find on the word Omaha, and we're gonna be able to see it there. So I like to highlight Omaha within a red shade so that we can see it a little bit easier. So putting it into UNO red for our branding scheme, that's what we usually do. And bold it, so make it even easier to see. And we can see that Omaha Hispanic poverty rate is ranking in the top half of the 100 largest metro areas in the country. So it's performing a little bit better than our Black population, which again, if I go back to that file, again, it was ranking 63rd best, so not in the top half, with the poverty rate over 26%, I can go again to this new Hispanic or Latino file and see that poverty rate quite a few points lower, 20.6%, and again ranking in the top half of all metro areas. So that was my goal, to go ahead and find out where the Omaha metro area ranked regarding Hispanic or Latino poverty. So with that, all I need to do is go ahead and save my file so I know, can keep it for future reference, and I would be pretty much done. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share here so that we can have a final takeaway in what our goal was regarding grabbing that information for all metropolitan areas in the US. With the way that the data come, you have to download it for all metropolitan and micropolitan areas, smaller places that have a city of 10,000. So removing all of those rows leads us to our all our metros, then sorted into the top 100 so that we can have the most accurate data as possible for that particular race group in this case. So David Drew signing off from the Center for Public Affairs Research at the University of Nebraska Omaha. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me at my email address of first initial D, followed by my last name, Drozd. So DDROZD @unomaha.edu. Thanks so much and have a great day.